Started yet, but here we go. Welcome back to the Combo Classroom for a little windy afternoon live stream with me, Demotro, and we got one of my cats, Sage, here. Hey, Sage, you want to do a cat meow? That's a good boy coming to get some pats. Anyways, I've been dealing with some technological issues recently. A lot of the bonus content I filmed has a strange glitch I'll describe in a minute, but I figured, why don't we look at the brighter side of technology today, of some strange, unusual technologies, inventions, computing things, and etc. that have occurred in modern day and or history. And this is a good time to jump back into a beautiful section of the website Wikipedia. This beautiful section in particular being their category, what they say is not an article, just a page, because it's a little more subjective what should or shouldn't be included, of unusual articles. And this isn't even all of the unusualness that we can find within Wikipedia. For example, here they note there's a whole separate thing of category of lists of things considered unusual, which doesn't even include another technological thing we've seen before, which was the list of inventors killed by their own invention, which maybe we'll return to today to look deeper into, because that is strange technology. But maybe that's on the list of lists for some reason. There's a lot of pages of lists on Wikipedia, and I love all the rabbit holes. But this one in particular, I thought would be a great series of live streams, going through different sections that here on this sidebar, we can see some of the sections that we will meet. Include places, history, math and numbers, which I'm sort of saving that for last because a few of the topics within it will get their own bonus videos before I want to just scroll through the Wikipedias of those pages. But today, I figured we're going to look at technology because, for one, I've been dealing with annoying technology stuff I'll describe in a moment, and for two, I normally am not the biggest fan of technology, apart from when necessary. I like old-fashioned things like paper books and cooking on campfires and such, but this portal, although maybe I originally expected would not be the most interesting, I think it might be one of the most interesting categories on here. It even has a few sub-pages. There's a category about hygiene and sanitation, one about clothes and accessories, one about transport, one about computing, and there's also just a main category on top that doesn't get a subheader. So there's kind of 5 subsections in here, 6 if we tack on later the list of inventors killed by their own invention, although we've briefly looked at that one before. And what we're going to do today is scroll through some of these that look particularly interesting to me or to any commenters here. And Wikipedia's best use is the type of thing we're doing right here. Not using it as an end-all source for a topic you're already interested in, but using it to encounter topics you didn't know existed. Many of these articles really intrigue me, reading the brief descriptions, and some of these are things that I already know about the topic. A few are ones I've even read the Wikipedia article on the topic before, but the majority I don't know the Wikipedia article and either don't know at all or don't know the details about the phenomena. And so don't treat this as us going deep into any particular concept. I'll try and bring myself back to this outer list pretty frequently so that we can see a lot of different things. Treat this more as finding out about a lot of different things that have technologically occurred, and if any of them do interest you, remember the name or a few key words that you could use to search up and look up other articles, or perhaps read the Wikipedia article on your own later, including the citations on the bottom, and see which sources they cited from, and if those have more interesting information about any of these topics that catch your eye. I know I'll be doing the same. Some topics here I won't fully go into on the live stream because I want to keep it moving, but I'll sort of stockpile in my brain like, hey, I want to come back to that and look that up on some other websites later. Now, let's begin before we jump all the way into this with first saying thank you to everybody joining me so far and commenting in the chat. Random comments are always helpful at making YouTube want to show the stream to other people, so feel encouraged to drop a random hello, question, comment, or whatever. And we do have one question about explaining time crystals. Quite interesting concept, which probably will get either an episode or bonus video someday, but I don't know if that will be within today's stream, but I'll keep in mind that we have a request for that. Now, what is the annoying tech thing I've been dealing with? Well, I'm mentioning it because a few of you might be able to help me if you want. The last two shorts that I posted on this channel are an example of some footage that I filmed on a new phone. I had to replace my phone and I figured, why don't I get one with a nice camera so I have a pretty good camera on the go. So I got a new camera relatively recently as part of a phone, and the footage it's filming has a different color profile. And as far as I can tell, that's the main difference from the footage I filmed before. But for some reason, it looks higher quality in the filming of it when I try and view the video compared to the upload. Looks a little darker or something. But here's the really weird bit. If I take a screenshot of one of these, it's so weird, in fact, I think I need to show you. I need to show you how baffling this is to me. So if I look up on this computer, combo class, let's go to the Demotro channel. I'm going to pull up two shorts. I'm going to pull up one that was filmed on the new camera and one that was filmed on the old camera. And I'm going to show you what happens when I take a screenshot of them side by side, which a screenshot should just show you what your computer looks like, right? Well, here's an older one. If I screenshot this, one sec. If I screenshot this, it does look the same. It looks the same, right? You can't notice any difference in the colors or anything. Now, here is a newer short. There are a lot of concepts that too gets a special the lighting nickname. On this is looking really weird. Like my computer doesn't handle the lighting on these correctly. But the even weirder thing is if I screenshot it then, okay, this is extra weird. It's not doing it for this one right here. But let me tell you something. If I screenshot these, that was a whole new problem. It made it look like sepia tone or something. Okay, I'm not seeing it right now. That's good. But when I would take screenshots of this, I'll check this later because I swear I want to show it to you folks at some point because of how weird it is. Some of the screenshots of just the new footage bleach it out in a weird way. It's like you up the exposure and contrast way too high. And I don't understand. I was about to upload a bonus video and I was going to design the thumbnail for it. And I was trying to take screenshots of it to use as part of the thumbnail and I couldn't. And so, I don't know, even when I was screenshotting the shorts after they were posted on YouTube, it was bleaching them out in this weird way. So that's a tech thing I'm dealing with. I think I'm just going to take the bonus video that I was going to release today, rerun it through a random program like iMovie and re-export it, even if that might have a mild quality loss, to make sure it doesn't have some weird glitch on certain devices like mine. So if anyone wants to help me, this sounds super random, but on a computer, hopefully, or a phone, take a screenshot of the past two shorts on this channel about square-free numbers and about words that need nicknames, and tell me if the screenshot looks normal to you. Sounds random, but it's been this huge annoyance recently in my world. Now, that's all I'm going to go into about that. I'm just going to find a way to get the bonus content out by re-exporting it or something, but hopefully those two shorts don't have something weird. But yeah, now it's looking like weird sepia tone. I swear, that's not the normal color. Really weird. So, back to our main topic. We're going to be looking at technology, inventions, and products before we investigate the subsections, and just learning about some very strange things that have existed in reality before. Let me take a sip of coffee and jump in. So, to begin, we have a 300-page iPhone bill. And normally, when you see terms and conditions for things, they can make them extraordinarily long digitally. If you look at what you have to sign when you skim through things and you're like, agree, 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 on certain software, for example, there's an unbelievable amount of pages in there with weird terms and conditions to make sure that that company never gets in lawsuits and perhaps other reasons. But why would you have a 300-page iPhone bill getting an article Well, you see, they got an itemized bill through paper, apparently, that was 300 pages. So it seems like this was popular due to a video showing that if you were to try and transition these unbelievably long terms and conditions into the real world, that they don't even fit on paper in any practical way that's not wasting a bajillion trees and wasting your garbage man's time as well. Now, these are other examples, in fact, where people have received bills of approximately 50 pages that they say are ridiculous and unnecessary. It also reminds me of receipts they have at certain stores. If you'd ever gone to the store CVS, they would print the most ridiculously long receipts. You'd go in and buy like a candy bar, and the receipt is like this long. I'm not even joking. And then if you were to actually try and buy a decent amount of products in there, it would be a joke. So, that one we'll skim past, but it is interesting. Next, we can see that Abraham Lincoln had a patent for lifting boats, and apparently he was the only president who had a patent. That's interesting. Now, how about this one? That seems like maybe the first one we'll jump a little deeper into. This, known as, maybe pronouncing this wrong, the Antikythera mechanism, is an ancient Greek type of computer. Now, this is a type of what's called an analog computer, where modern computers are digital, which doesn't actually just mean computer-like. It means that they use digits. It means they use binary, typically, to represent things, with bits being on or off to represent zeros and ones in a digital way. But an analog computer is a possibility as well. Some computers, instead of having digits, may mark where a certain tape is slid, and then they slide the tape over, or other mechanisms that are a bit more continuous sometimes, as opposed to a digit being on or off. Now, it looks like this was discovered from a shipwreck, and it seems that it was used to track certain things by ancient Greek people. One thing it seems they were able to track is astronomical positions and eclipses, apparently decades in advance. And apparently they may have also been using this to track their sports games. So similar to the Olympics being held, I think it's every 4 years. I'm not a sports guy. They would do it back in the day, and it was a little harder to keep track of exact 4-year spans if you didn't have one of these, maybe. So it looks like it was constructed before the year 0. This was in BC. More than 2,000 years ago, they believe this was constructed. They have also rebuilt versions that are similar to it so that they could try and figure out how it may have originally worked. And it looks like these are separate fragments that each have been documented from there. Quite interesting, ancient methods of computing. Maybe someday that will be its own topic, a mix of ways that ancient societies could design computer-like things. Now, here we have an invention known as the baby cage. It's back in the day. People thought, well, you want to give your baby some fresh air. They were all stuck in some apartments, so they built a baby cage. It's a little cage outside the window, hanging up there, that you put your baby in. Man, they were trusting whoever built this thing. I don't know if I had a baby, if I would have that much trust in any company to put my baby in a baby cage designed by that company. Just hanging up there. Like, oh man, those bars at the bottom better be sturdy. Apparently this one was semi-popular because it was used by Eleanor Roosevelt. Now, next we have the Build Lily doll. This is a German doll that apparently was the inspiration for Barbie, and they say considered its grandmother. Now that's kind of weird because that seems like, why isn't it the mother? This implies there was another one between the Build Lily doll and Barbie. Now, I do like to even explain basic concepts because some people who are either foreign, watching this in the future, or aliens might not know all of modern culture. So Barbie is a popular doll that now is like the most popular doll of a certain type for typically kids to play with. But apparently they stole a lot of inspiration from the Build Lily. Now, next we have Billy Possum. So a teddy bear is a common concept, at least in America, that is a nickname for a certain type of stuffed animal. A bear that's stuffed, there's like a special subset of stuffed animals that get the nickname teddy bear. Now, here we can note that the teddy bear was actually related to Theodore Roosevelt, who was often known as Teddy Roosevelt, and that another president, Taft, wanted his own stuffed animal. He was jealous of the fact that Roosevelt got a stuffed animal named after him, so he tried to make the Billy Possum named after himself, William Taft, who I guess went by Billy sometimes. Based on my childhood and seeing teddy bears a lot of places and not knowing about Billy Possums until I looked at this list, maybe points to the fact that Billy Possums were not as successful as teddy bears. Now, I am looking at many of these articles for the first time because although in my main videos I like to do some research beforehand, so I'm like a step above the viewers with the knowledge, telling them things, but to bring them up to that level too. But with live streams, it can sometimes be more fun or either interesting or entertaining for you to see my live reaction to you're with me learning a lot of this information for the first time. So let's see whatever the blahage is. Now, and of course, I'm going to be mispronouncing many things. I will give my attempt at a pronunciation on all of them, but probably not going to get all of the foreign words right. The blahage was apparently an IKEA bestseller, a stuffed shark, and a transgender icon. The blahage. This was manufactured by the Swedish company IKEA, and I'm not sure why it became a popular internet meme, especially in the transgender community, but cool. We support trans rights and believe all people are equal here in the combo class, so cool. Why not use this stuffed shark as a symbol? I like sharks as well. Now, going back, we got Breakout. Apparently, this was a video game started by Steve Jobs, finished by Steve Wozniak, who are the two founders of Apple, I believe. And apparently it helped spur the creation of one of the earliest Apple computers. Maybe they needed to make a better computer to play the game on, and now it's like, oh, the computer is kind of the more important part than the game. So it looks like it's a Pong-like game, for those who know that simple game Pong. And for some reason or another, Breakout influenced Apple II. Let's see that section. A lot of the features of the second Apple computer went in because I had designed Breakout for Atari. I wanted to write it in software now. And for those who are into the tech world, I do believe Steve Wozniak is an underrated name because Steve Jobs gets a lot of credit for the creation of Apple, but I believe a lot of the stuff came from Wozniak as well. So here we have the canard digiteur, or digesting duck. This is a mechanical duck that you feed it granules of feed it, I'm mixing on my tongue because sometimes I'm trying to read ahead and speak. Eating kernels of grain, and it makes it look like it eats them and poops them out. Of course, the duck did not have the ability to do this, so that is a trait of life that it eats and excretes, not of mechanical ducks. The food is contained in an inner container, and then stuff that looks like excretion was produced from a second. So you have to, I guess, put some gross-looking stuff in it to make it look like it digested the corn. I am not surprised that this never took off as a popular thing. Who would want to have to refill that duck? Okay, the Centennial Light. Ooh, and we're getting close to the clock ones. Y'all know that we're fans of clocks around here, so that was one of the reasons when I realized, maybe the tech section will be more interesting than I thought, was that they have 2 clock articles that I hadn't read yet. All right, next we got the Centennial Light. Apparently a light bulb that's been burning non-stop for 119 years. Now that's difficult because typically a light bulb has the filaments and the parts that make it work, and then I don't know how you would replace the filaments if you just had the main setup of a light bulb without it turning off at any point. So I assume they must have multiple filament structures so that they can replace one while the other is still going. Now, the bulb's longevity has been attributed to the high quality of its or wait, did they not even change it? Whoa, maybe they never even changed it. Maybe they're saying that its longevity is just because it was really high quality. It's rarely turned on and off, because turning on and off actually can use a good amount of it compared to leaving on sometimes. And it's at a low wattage, so it's not burning super bright. Originally a 60-watt bulb, the light has for many years emitted dim light equivalent to a 4-watt bulb. That is really cool. So I don't think they've even ever replaced it. This is maybe one of the only light bulbs to get a Guinness World Record. According to the fire chief, every few months, a news outlet will publish a story on the bulb, generating visitors and general interest, then it will drop back into obscurity for a while. I don't know if I count as a news outlet yet, but we're getting a mild amount of general interest here. But, don't everyone visit the bulb at the same time. All right, Eternal Flame. That seems like an interesting other article. Just the concept. It's a fantastical thing. Can you have an eternal flame? How would one achieve this? Longest lasting light bulbs also gets its own article. It's a list. So, the second place, the third place, they have them ranked by how long. And Edison tried, but it didn't work. But a whole tower fell down to kill the bulb, so he tried. Although Edison, as many science lovers may know, was not someone you'd necessarily list in the greatest scientists of all time in terms of his personal discoveries. He was better at collecting discoveries and creating patents for them and creating infrastructures to design them. He was a bit more of a businessman than... he was a scientist. He was a very helpful guy to the world. But a lot of his ideas originally came from people like Tesla, not related to the modern cars designed by Elon Musk, but the original Nikolai Tesla. A lot of his ideas were created by him and patented or then mass-produced by Edison. So, still, we're not going to diss Edison, but he may be mildly overrated in certain curriculum. Now, going back... we have Chindogu, and the funny thing about this one is I know way more about this than any other article, even though I haven't read the article yet, because I, for some reason, have a book about Chindogu. Now, I recently moved back into the house near here from somewhere else I'd been living for a few months. Long story. So a lot of my stuff's packed, so I didn't have the book available to show to the stream, but sometime I'll unpack it and show the stream. I have this book that shows all these different Chindogu, and they're pretty cool. They are everyday gadgets, often Japanese origin, that are ideal solutions to particular problems, but they may cause more problems than they solve. And I think this one will be easier to see if we Google Chindogu and see, because it's like, here's a butter stick. Here's a face to protect you from splashes of noodles. Here's a little fan you attach to chopsticks to cool down your noodles as you go. These are little umbrellas that attach to your shoes for rain. So they're sort of like purposefully semi-useless, semi-perfect for a very specific situation inventions. For some reason, there's an upside-down umbrella connected to something. So yeah, I wonder if these inspired... There's this guy on YouTube who makes, it's called like Unnecessary Inventions or something like that. I forget the channel name, but something along those lines. I wonder if he was inspired by these. Now, that's Chindogu. So those are cool. I'll show you some examples in the book I have sometime. And now we are on to our clocks. We have the clock of the long now. This is a clock that is still under construction. It is a clock they are currently designing. It's designed to keep time for 10,000 years. Now, this is more difficult than it seems, because if you have a clock that's running, unlike all the clocks here that are stopped, your running clock will slowly be off eventually. You can't design a mechanism precisely the same in two different clocks. especially to line up with clocks on other continents that exactly ticks the same amount. And so if you have a clock and another clock, eventually they will get off from each other unless, you're able to go down to some quantum level to perfectly design identical things and identical climates for them to be ticking in. Like where the pressure of the earth is probably changes it. The amount of gravity and magnetism right there probably changes it. So clocks will eventually get off. Apart from my clocks that are right twice a day each. That's a lot of times a day total. So this clock is being designed super precisely to be able to be on time for 10,000 years before they might have to adjust it a second forward or back, maybe. So this is very interesting because it's sort of, if you visit this, you're like, okay, at the moment, I'm not seeing anything more different than a clock. But if I imagine the big scale of time before and after me, someone else will visit this in 2,000 years if it's still here, and they will see the clock still accurate. Now, of course, there are considerations. How are we going to power this perfectly? How are we going to time this perfectly? Some of these methods are a little inaccurate, but reliable, because you have reliability. How likely is it that it'll mess up versus accuracy in the best case scenario? What do we expect it to do? Or best case or average case, depending how you're analyzing it, versus unreliable, meaning sort of worst case. What is the chance of that? And so they're still working on it. They're trying to make this work, but it's pretty cool. Oh, apparently the name came from the musician Brian Eno. Brian Eno's great. His first few rock albums are magnificent. His ambient albums are interesting. And he's done a lot of strange experiments. So Brian Eno is an interesting artist. And apparently he gave it its name. And he collaborated on the writing of music for the chimes of a future prototype. He's the right guy to ask for that. So, I do recommend to any music lovers the first albums. Brian Eno helped produce the band The Talking Heads on some of their best albums. And then his first few albums, Here Come the Warm Jets, Taking Tiger Mountain, and Before and After Science, those are the sort of rock-like ones, and Another Green World is sort of when it starts to get ambient, and then a lot of his later ones are like music for airports, or something that's literally meant to be like a background vibe you barely pay attention to and just sort of settle into. Or you could not barely pay attention to, but often it's not going to be super rhythmic, and it's not going to be super melodic necessarily. So those get kind of strange, his later albums, but still interesting. And that's interesting. Maybe we'll visit that for a field trip someday. Although I don't know if you can visit it when it's not completed. Now we got Clocky. I haven't seen the article about Clocky. I don't know what Clocky is, apart from this one sentence that greatly intrigues me. An alarm clock that hides from its owner. So let's see. Clocky. Clocky's a brand of alarm clock outfitted with wheels, allowing it to hide itself in order to force the owner awake in an attempt to find it. So Clocky, normally if you're like half asleep, you're like, oh man, I need some more sleep. Let's say you're waking up and it's not like urgent, like you're going to a meeting, but you're waking up and you like want to get the day going, like you have some work to do that you could do at any time, but you want to get it started. Well, maybe if you use an alarm clock, you're going to trick your mind when you're half asleep in the morning and be like, I can just keep hitting snooze on the alarm clock or even turn it off because I just want that more sleep. I'm like half in the dream. I want to go back to the dream. So Clocky hides from you to make that more difficult. The first prototype was covered in carpet to appear like a pet. After designing Clocky, first the inventor didn't make any further plans. However, various blogs began talking about Clocky, and so the inventor was like, okay, I better do some more work on Clocky. The development and marketing of it has become a Harvard Business School case study. The operation is, as we expect, it tries to hide from you and otherwise is like an alarm clock. And we have a second generation of Clocky. Clocky's kid, Talkie. Talkie is the tech-savvy cousin of Clocky. It's a digital alarm clock with changeable skin that runs away on the alarm but is spherical. So it rolls away instead of needing wheels. And it has a touchscreen display. Receives up to over 6 hours of audio made by recording the user's own voice or sounds in the microphone. And so I guess you could tell this to be wake up, or whatever you want to tell yourself in the morning. And then it rolls away spherically. Smart design for Clocky's kid. We are seeing evolution in these products, maybe way back when we were small organisms with not many cells, we did something similar where we became a little more spherical for a moment. I don't know. I don't know if that was necessarily the case for human evolution, but for Clocky, it's working. Maybe. Clocky, when was this? So I guess Clocky has lost a little popularity since then, so I will, if it is available to buy Clocky or Talkie, I will try and get one someday. I will bring Clocky and Talkie back to popularity. It's a very silly device. We could almost call... Many of these almost could be in that category of Chindogu. Inventions with such a specific purpose that in most scenarios they actually sort of get in the way or aren't helpful. But I don't know. I kind of like the idea of Clocky and Talkie. Next, we have concealing items in a book, a mystery classic. This is something that occurs in stories I've written and stories I'm working on, having a book that's somewhat hollowed out and has something in it. A lot of mystery to be had within there. And maybe someday I'll have to conceal some items in some books of my own. They note here, hopefully you weren't planning to read it before you hollowed it out. And I'm going to add to that and say, hopefully you don't plan on reading it again or giving it to someone else to read. So conceal your objects in books that you have read and you don't like. Okay, so why does this get a whole article, though? There are many real and fictitious occurrences of it, they note. So you could put items like a photograph or a note just between the pages, because they're just saying concealing. They're not saying a hollowed out book necessarily, although often you will use a hollowed out book. I like the idea of putting things in books that sound like they're related to it. Like if I had a book that was like the history of weapons and I had a knife inside it. So here we have messages can be hidden as well by printing things in a text, or if you wanted to hide them using steganography, which is going to be a topic someday. It's a way of concealing messages, codes that you don't even know are codes sometimes. So let's say, for example, I had a book that I highlighted sections of, and someone thought I was just highlighting my favorite sections, but it turned out if you look at the first letter of each section I highlighted, it spells out a secret code or something like that. Hollow book safes. Choice of book. The subject of the book can be symbolic or related. This is what I was saying. Like if you hid your money in a copy called The Wealth of Nations. All right, now, what are actual examples? I don't really care about fictional occurrences. They're really cool, but there's tons of them. If you're a writer, you may want to have an object hidden in a book. It's mysterious and cool. Let's look at actual examples of this. So, objects is the one category. I don't know if they needed to have a subcategory when there's only one type, but we have a band that released a cassette in a limited edition of only 50 things. Each was inside a book. We have hollowed out books used to smuggle items into prisons. Like if you're saying, oh, yeah, my friend's in prison. I just really recommend he reads this book in prison. And then the guard looks inside it and they're like, dude, it's hollowed out. There's drugs in the book or something. So here we have, or like if it's a mysterious movie, maybe you somehow put some little tool in the book so that the person in the cell can pick the lock or something. Now, there's been bombs hidden in books, and this is actually a kind of dark topical thing because recently in the news, I won't get political, but In the news, the Israeli government has been hiding bombs in pagers and walkie-talkies and doing very evil, genocidal-like things with these. And I'm saying that as a Jewish person. So hopefully that stops soon, because I'm not going to go all the way into it, but it's pretty dark what has happened this week involving bombs hidden inside things. Although it wasn't books yet. Here we have a man in Redding, California, who was arrested after taking photographs of someone with a camera hidden in a book. So this was a perverted guy who was using the book to try and prey on someone. Now, here we have antique thieves who have attempted to use a hollowed out book to take a precious lead weight out of Israel. Interesting. We have guards at the Washington County Jail in Arkansas. They seized a book, what appeared to be stains, but really the stains were meth. So, okay, that's one way. Like, I said you could highlight it to hide a message in your highlighting. You could also highlight it with a substance that's not real highlighter. Now, don't get any ideas from these things, folks. If you hollow out books and put an item in it, make it something that's not going to cause any distress. So, here we have 2 hollowed out books that 2 people used to conceal items related to attempts to launder $4.5 billion of stolen cryptocurrency about 5 years ago. So, hollowed out books are still being used. Okay, now here's an interesting thought. Could we consider a modern meta version of hollowed out books being if you had some like source code for something, which is a string of text like a book, and you hid some message within the source code of a game or something? That's almost like hollowing out a little section of something to hide something in it. So I do like the idea of hollowed out items in books. Maybe I'll need to actually design some for my classroom. So I'm going to have to look at all my books and figure out which ones are, first of all, thick, and second of all, like this. Look at this book. This would be really good to hollow out, but I don't want. Look at this book. This is a book. But I don't want to hollow it out because it's a good dictionary. It's from a while ago, but it's cool to have a very large dictionary sometimes. So I need a book that's large like that, but that I don't like. Then I'll hollow it out and put something funny in it related to whatever subject it is. All right, so back to our main page. I don't even know if we're going to get through all the tech ones. We've been streaming for over half an hour, and we are like a third of the way through the first section that hasn't even gone to subsections. We'll see if maybe this is a 2-part stream, but for now, we shall continue down our list. Next, another clock-like one. We got a digital sundial. Unlike an analog sundial, which is much more common, a digital sundial tries to create digital numbers based on how the time hits it. So the sun is supposed to hit a device that has no moving parts, that uses no electricity, and that somehow the sun hits it in a way that displays numbers on it. I'm not sure exactly how they do it, but it's pretty cool. It says there's 2 types. One uses optical waveguides, and one is inspired by fractal geometry. That's pretty cool. The theoretical basis, so I don't know if they've built it successfully, but this is their idea. The theoretical basis for the other construction comes from fractal geometry. Now, fractals are things typically that are self-similar, or in other ways that means that if you zoom in or out, you will see complexity, and then more, you can't zoom in or out typically to a state that is non-complex. Or some fractals you may have to go one direction, like zooming out would look less complex, but zooming in maintains complexity. Often you will also see self-similar copies of the original if you zoom in enough. For example, just as a simple example that will show up in a future episode of mine, the Sierpinski triangle right here, if I looked at just one corner of this, like I want to say 1/3. It's 1/3 of the filled-in-ish parts, but there is this missing one in the middle, so it's more like 1/4 of the triangle up here. That's a copy of the whole triangle. So is that little thing. So is that little thing. So is that little thing. So some you can zoom in infinitely, and it's very interesting to me that somehow plays into designing fractal-based sundials. So they're going to say, for simplicity, we'll describe a two-dimensional planar version. So there's already a simplification. Maybe someday we'll have to read the whole article about it. If we have a straight line passing through the origin, that means the middle between where the axes touch, like 0, 0 of a Cartesian coordinate system, making this angle with the x-axis related to pi, then we make a projection of it that is a perpendicular projection of the line. Then we have a family of sets, and we're going to have to look deeper into this later. This would be a whole rabbit hole because I don't think Wikipedia's shorter description would be the right way to learn this. I want to see what they're citing for it and read through those sometime. But very interesting. I will remember this connection that digital sundials are possible, at least theoretically, and that they may relate to fractal geometry. Okay, let me take a moment to look at our chat. Thank you so much for everybody leaving your thoughts. Always fun to read. And got a lot of cool thoughts. Someone said they got a clocky at a thrift store and that it works, but they haven't used it as their alarm yet. Give that a test. Let me know in a comment in the future whether your clocky worked for you. Now, someone says either it'll work great or your aim will improve. Yeah, you're just going to hit with the clocky. You just get really good at, like, you have a brick by your bed now and you're really good at throwing the brick at wherever clocky is. It reminds me of there's this old scene in a Pink Panther cartoon where he smashes the alarm clock with a hammer and tosses it to the side of the bed, and you see it tumble down into this zone that's this massive pile of smashed alarm clocks. So let's move forward. After our digital sundial, we have a dream machine. This is a device that, well, first let's read their synopsis. A device made with a light bulb and record turntable that reportedly induces lucid dreaming. Now, lucid dreaming is a whole rabbit hole of a topic. It is when you are semi-aware that you are in the dream, or sometimes fully aware, but you don't wake up, and sometimes you're even able to manipulate the dream on purpose. I have experienced this, and I have a whole crazy relationship with my dreams. There are locations I recur to in my dreams, and there are mysterious places in them I'm trying to get to. And when I'm fully dreaming, I forget about these mysterious locations until I pass through them again. But whenever I wake up from it, or when I'm semi-lucid, I'll be like, I want to find that room. There was something mysterious going on. So I will make a video someday about my experiences with lucid dreaming and other strange sleep-related things. For example, they say that if you pinch yourself in a dream, you'll wake up, and it's a test. Not true. I have pinched myself in a dream to test if I was dreaming, and I didn't wake up. So I decided in the dream, okay, I've tested it. I'm definitely awake. And I wasn't. So I have this weird thing in the back of my head where I'm always not 100% sure I'm awake. Anyway, the dream machine is a stroboscopic flickering light art device that produces eidetic visual stimuli. This is a lot of words that I bet most people here, there's at least one word here you don't know what it means. So as usual, we are just going to briefly look into the dream machine, not the details that technologically supposedly make one, but apparently when you flash lights at your eyes in a certain way, it can trip you out a bit. There's also versions of this that are overrated or overstated. For example, it reminds me of these things called something beats. What is it? Binaural beats or something? That people believe if you listen to these weird sounds, it will produce something strange in your mind. Sometimes they believe you do it dreaming or sometimes awake. Some of these may be true, some of these may be placebo effects. In any case, maybe someday we'll build a dream machine to test it. That'd be a pretty fun week, building and testing a dream machine. Anyways, moving forward, we have the electronic voice phenomena. These were spiritual voices that people can believe sometimes that they have heard in things like static or in sounds through radios or things that aren't very clear. Maybe the glitches in the radio were a ghost. Maybe if you listen to it a very particular way, maybe if you change the pitch and the frequency, you can turn it into a sound that sounds like a ghost saying hello. I'm leaning towards skepticism on if there are supernatural entities that they are leaving clues within sound waves of this sort. But it's still interesting to ponder. You know, I am skeptical about certain supernatural-ish things and pseudoscientific things. However, I also want to keep an open mind because science evolves. So, you know, we are not going to today prove or disprove this, but I'll say don't overanalyze if you think you heard a voice in something, because humans have the ability to look at things and think they are human. We look at things and say, that looks like a human face because we were evolved that way. So perhaps we hear things and we go, that sounds like a human voice, even when it may not. There are also natural explanations for this one. However, you never know. Now we have the friendly floaties spill. Rubber ducks that made a long trip across the ocean. Now, unfortunately, this is just bad for the environment that there was a lot of plastic floating across the ocean. So this is a kind of dark story in general that, you know, the way we move plastic across the ocean, sometimes humans mess up and something sinks, and now we've left a lot of plastic in the ocean. But at least in this case, most of the plastic floated and made its way somewhere else. I'm sure one of them probably got eaten by a sad dolphin or something, but most of them, it appears, washed up on other shores and made a strange journey, or journeys for different ones, across the ocean. It's interesting to see things on the seashore that you wonder how long they've traveled and how old they are. Things like what was glass from a broken bottle that now is fully smooth because of how long it's spent in the ocean. Or things like, you know, a little clue. Maybe you'll find a note in a bottle if you're lucky. Here we have... This sounds straight out of Tom and Jerry cartoons. A gun-powered mousetrap? Oh boy. So this is just straight out of a cartoon. Somebody watched a Tom and Jerry cartoon. Oh no, never mind. This predates Tom and Jerry. Maybe the other way around. Maybe MGM Animations, whichever director was animating the first Tom and Jerry cartoons, were inspired by this guy. Anyways, he filed a patent for a mousetrap that involved a handgun, by which animals which burrow in the ground can be destroyed. This is also just pretty dark. Like, if the ideal way to get a mouse out of your house is to capture it and let it out in nature somewhere. The next ideal would be to poison it, so it's at least more humane than, like, shooting it with a gun. So this is not the most humane way to solve a rat infestation. However, gotta give the guy credit for innovation, maybe? Anyways, it was a patent. I don't know if he has ever actually designed it. Okay, this is kind of dark. He said the invention could also be used to kill any person or thing opening a door or window to which it's attached. Now, some people believe that you are able to make like a booby trap in your own house that would, you know, if somebody comes in, I have a gun on a string and it'll get them. That is actually illegal because there are so much more often it causes an error where somebody innocent gets hurt by it than it is successful. So that is actually illegal. Even in places where it would be illegal for you as a human to attack a burglar who comes in your house, you are not allowed to, like, put a gun on a string or something. So, anyways, there's been 4,400 or more than that mousetrap patents, and I think only one of them was the gun-powered mousetrap, which this seems like an understatement. The gun-powered mousetrap proved inferior to spring-powered mousetraps. Okay. It was listed on a list of 7 horrifying attempts at building a better mousetrap. I don't know if I want to know about those other 6. All right. Now we have, okay, the Hitler teapot. All right. Now, before I jump into this, I should have people know, if it sounds like I am making any sort of jokes about topics that are dark, know that this was actually a very dark scenario, and we're just looking for any possible humor in one of the darker points of known history, which was the Holocaust. Hitler was, as you probably know, one of the worst people we have known in recorded history, as far as if we were to calibrate evilness, although that's subjective. If we made the best calibration of evilness we could, this guy's top 10. So I also want to mention that my family on my dad's side was actually in the Holocaust. One of my grandparents actually escaped Germany as a Jew and came to New York during the period of the Holocaust and was a lucky survivor of it. And other members of the family were unlucky non-survivors of it. So I am actually descended from people who survived this terrible incident. However, sometimes you gotta look for a little humor in the darkness, and our little humor in the darkness right now is that this teapot, a lot of people think looked like the dictator making his infamous salute. And at first I was like, does it really? But then it kind of clicked in my eyes, and it kind of does. You have to see this handle as the hair, and there's a little mustache, and this is the infamous salute. So I don't think that J.C. Penney, who designed this, had this intention. However, I wouldn't be surprised if they redesigned it afterward. It says they removed a billboard of it. At least maybe don't photograph it at that angle. Of course, unintentional things like this we shouldn't put against the company for a coincidence. But, you know, interesting. We will, once again, coming back to humans recognizing faces in different things. But the ones we recognize the faces in the most sometimes also include funny, in a dark way, in this case, coincidences. Now, the kettle sold out, actually, because it was notorious. So people wanted this as a conversation point in their house for some reason. So it sold out. Success by J.C. Penney, accidentally. Anyways, going back. We have Marvin Heemeyer. Why is a person on this list? Well, it says why it's always a bad idea to put the guy next door out of business if he has a 10-ton armor-plated bulldozer in his garage. Sounds like an interesting story. Okay, so Marvin Heemeyer was an American automobile muffler repair shop owner who destroyed numerous buildings with a modified bulldozer. He had grudges against many town officials. He destroyed the town hall, the house of a former mayor, and several other buildings. Unfortunately, this was part of him ending his own life. Sometimes this sadly happens when people who plan on ending their own life, which is already tragic, cause a big scene before doing it, which adds extra tragedy. Although this is a tragedy, the reason it's on this list is kind of interesting because the funniness of the darkness here is sort of just imagining this guy with a modified bulldozer destroying houses of like the mayor being like, no! So this guy sucks, but interesting story. Maybe I'll read the whole story sometime. I wonder why he was so mad at the local government. Next, this is one that perhaps we'll skip over for its own stream someday, or own bonus video, because it's very interesting. The history of perpetual motion machines. Perpetual motion machines are the attempts at a probably impossible task, which is to make something continue moving forever without adding any energy in there. The reason this is impossible is because when things move, they lose some of their momentum. There's friction, there's gravity. And between things like friction and gravity, even if you're like having a little waterfall try and power the water coming back out of itself, you're eventually going to lose some of your momentum and such. However, it's been something attempted throughout history. And being an open-minded person, I'm not going to say it's impossible to make a perpetual motion machine. I'll say, based on the modern understanding of science, it should be impossible. But people are still trying because it's at the heart of a simple-ish experiment that ties a lot of different aspects of science and the universe together. For all we know for now, we will never be able to achieve this. So if we look at this another day, their list in history, it will be failed attempts, but they'll be interesting. Now, Hitachi Magic Wand. Maybe to not get my stream in any trouble from YouTube, I won't go into this article itself. It looks like the manufacturers continue to claim it's just a massager for health purposes. However, apparently it is the world's best known sex toy. So the manufacturers are claiming ignorance and claiming it has other purposes, but maybe we should treat things as the purpose they are most commonly used for as opposed to the purpose they're designed for, although we must factor both in. Particularly if, even if it was designed one way, the manufacturers are just plain dumb, but yeah, maybe it works for them. We'll skip most of that one for now. The Jibba Jabber is next. This is a new stress toy where you... Okay, this is dark. What kind of psychopath wants one of these? It's a hot new stress toy where you simulate shaking a baby to death. It's kind of... I don't need one of these toys. This is like for... You know how like Homer Simpson in The Simpsons would strangle Bart? That's a cartoon, so it would be a lot darker if it was shown in a live action show. But apparently for that sort of parent, you now have a toy so you can strangle the toy instead of your kid. I'm going to recommend therapy before the Jibba Jabber. Next, we have the Klexdorp Sphere. This is something I've heard about before. It's some strange stones that have been found that have really precise looking ridges in them. They have been dated as 3 billion years old, and it doesn't seem like the humans had anything to do with why they have these grooves in them. So some people treat it as evidence of alien life. I'm going to be a bit more skeptical and say that over periods like 3 billion years, there's a lot of changes in ice, in rocks, and things like that, that maybe there was an ice age right then, and then the ice age ended, and it made grooves, or maybe there was a weird earthquake that compressed the rocks at certain points. I'm going to say that the world can create weird shapes over time. However, it is interesting. Geologists have demonstrated they're not manufactured, they're natural. And some people cling on to things like these as evidence for alien life, which we hopefully won't, but it is interesting that we don't know where exactly or how they came from. Some claims of people who say they prove UFOs overstate aspects of them, like claiming that they're perfect spheres, which they are not exactly. Apparently, some are interlocked with each other like a mass of soap bubbles. So, interesting that the world, or in a very small chance, aliens, created this somehow. Next we have, this is one of the ones I'm not going to pronounce right, Zbigniew Libera. And, okay, for some reason we're back at the Holocaust. This is the creator of the Lego concentration camp. Let's hope that this was done of some form of protest and not some form of praise for what he was designing. It attracted much controversy, including Lego threatening legal action. I am a fan of Lego. I used to build them a lot as a kid. I think out of all the toys for kids, Lego is one of the better ones. Now, or for adults. Like, I'm not saying Lego has to be for kids. Adults can use toys. If I was rich, I would probably buy a Lego now and then. Now, here we have... Why did he make it? That's all I'm curious about. I don't see... much information about why he made it. Maybe if I read more about it. I'm assuming it was some form of strange protest or something, and that he is not a fan of concentration camps. One would at least hope. Now, oh, we do have this here. I thought this wasn't on here for some reason, but it's the list of inventors killed by their own invention. Now, I'm going to open that just in a separate tab because it's a whole list. So we're either going to come back to that at the end or another day. We briefly skimmed through it in a previous stream. Now we have the love chair. Just for the sake of my younger viewers and for YouTube, I might not click on the ones that are directly sex related, but this one was made to allow a fat king to have a threesome. So, okay, fine. We have to see how it looked. We have to just see how the chair looked. That's how the chair looked. Okay. Now let me take a peek at our chat. Thank you to everybody leaving different comments. Somebody said pirate glass is a fun one. I don't know if you mean pirate glass is one of the articles we'll come across here or a separate thing, but we'll look that up later if we don't come across it maybe. Mousetraps, someone noted, are much older than they realized. I'm also interested similarly in the really old alarm clocks. We were hearing about those as well. And I think a really fun episode someday would be, can I design an alarm clock from scratch? And not just like using batteries and gears I buy from a store. Like it might have to be powered by water or by like a candle with nails dropping out at a certain point. What ways can we make alarm clocks? So, now we got the Mengenlehrer. You got to read between the lights to see the time. It's a public clock that tells the time by means of illuminated colored fields. That's interesting. It tells the time in a sort of stranger way of displaying digits. The clock may be the key to the unsolved section of Kryptos, a sculpture at the CIA headquarters that I believe has secret messages on it, some of which are unsolved. Part of the code reads clock. Okay, so, given that we're past an hour, I'm going to have to run inside briefly just to refill my coffee and take a breather. I will be back in 2 or 3 minutes. In the meantime, hope you stick around and leave a comment if any of the ones you can see here on the screen are particularly, specially interesting to you. We'll shrink it for a minute so we can see more of them at a time. So, okay, that's too small maybe. Can you read? Hopefully you can read that. How'd we get to animals? Are any of these especially interesting to you? Leave a comment. Okay, I'll be back soon, and stick around till then. folks. I am back. Thanks to everyone who hung on while we did a little intermission. I've found that I can do multi-hour streams, which may be the case today, and have fun throughout multiple hours if I give myself a short intermission about once an hour. So back to our list anyways. Well, let me take a peek at our comments. Pirate glass, someone is saying, is at a beach. The pirate glass may be... What is pirate glass exactly? Are you referring to what I just call sea glass, where the glass has now become like rounded by the sea? In any case, let's go back to where we were on this, which we're in a whole different category there for some reason. It went down to pop culture. Here we were at the Moo Box, a cow in a can. I remember those. You turn it upside down, it makes a little cow sound. I don't know if that's that unusual. How about a mosquito laser? This is sort of like a version of the handgun mouse thing, you know, where you had the pistol and the mouse trap. Except the difference here is that mosquitoes suck. Rats are a problem for your house, but they're nice critters in their own right. Mosquitoes are parasitic, evil little suckers. Literal suckers. Now, right here, I approve of any weird way to eradicate mosquitoes. They also bring a lot of diseases places. Mosquitoes are why malaria spread and stuff. Now, I approve of the mosquito laser. Oh, yeah, in fact, the primary goal... Oh, I have to shrink myself. The primary goal of the mosquito laser is to reduce malaria infection rates. So this is cool. Any way you can get those mosquitoes, get them. They're bad. I have a pond over there that I have to be really careful changing out the water a lot. And sometimes even putting these mosquito bomb things that stop them from being able to lay their eggs in it. Because otherwise, places like ponds, still water, you got to be careful with. It can breed mosquitoes. So there is, you know, ecological or environmental damage that could occur because mosquitoes are in a chain of things that eat them. If we were able to snap our fingers and all the mosquitoes would vanish, that would cause a lot of problems. We want to kill most of the mosquitoes or kill them all over time, not like all at once, because then the things that eat the mosquitoes have trouble living. However, in day-to-day life, you see a mosquito, get it. All right, Museum of Failure, a collection of sorts focusing on failed things. Oh man, imagine you're an inventor and this is the first museum you get your product in. Oh boy. So the Museum of Failure is to help people recognize we need to accept failure if we want progress, and to emphasize to companies to learn more from their failures without resorting to what they call cliches. Let's see some examples of what they put in here. The Apple Newton was a device no one wanted. The Bic for her. I remember hearing about this. They tried to market ballpoint pens that are like, this one's for girls. It's like, what? Like, if you're making toys for kids, it's already kind of weird to be like, these ones are for girls and these ones are for boys. But it's really weird to be like, this pen is for girls and this pen is for boys. I don't think your gender has much to do with which pen you're going to want. Okay, we have Google Glass. This is Google thought people would all be wearing these like glasses that displayed things in front of their face. You know, not successful. We have the N-Gauge. A lot of these are just, oh, whoa, lobotomy instruments. We have taken a turn. These are failed tech products, and this is lobotomy instruments. Okay. Harley Davidson branded cologne, a particular type of Kodak camera, and some other... Oh, Lego fiber optics. Too bad that failed. And Paolo Macariani's famous plastic this part of your body. Okay, let's hope that if I make some inventions, the first one won't end up here. All right. Now we have... Oh, this was listed on there. That doll is a spy. Okay, my friend Kayla were little dolls that use speech recognition to use the internet to search what the user said and then respond with data it found online. Kinda creepy. You know, you say hi to the doll and the doll Googles User said hi. What is common response? So the doll's banned in Germany because Germans consider it to be a surveillance device. Or I shouldn't say all Germans, but the German government at least. And yeah, it sounds like a surveillance device. I would be kind of sketched out having one of these in my house. All right. Now, a lot of our technology is listening to us and paying a lot of attention to the things we do, but typically it's to try and sell us products and sell our information to companies for those to sell us products. It's not usually a giant conspiracy to take you down or anything, but still a weird aspect of our world that things listen to you. Now, here we have one red paperclip. That's a classic one, and it's actually sort of negatively impacted YouTube culture mildly, maybe, because this one guy took a red paperclip and he traded and traded and traded until he got all the way, I guess, he ended up with a house. And so it showed how with enough work and little trades, you could build your way up to something. And he made this work over the course of a year somehow. This is the series of events. However, a lot of YouTubers then tried being like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to trade something tiny and try and build up to own a car or something. And I feel like a lot of the clips in those are A, maybe literally staged, might be completely fake. Like they just asked someone, can you give me this reaction? Or B, when it's on film for a YouTube video, people want to be in the video sometimes and are willing to do a not that good trade to be part of the video. You know, they're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll give you this clock for a paperclip because it'll be a funny scene. And then so it's a lot easier to trade your way up if you're incorporating, oh, help me on this journey and I'm famous or whatever. I'm filming it. Still a kind of interesting concept. Now, going forward from there, we have the parking chair. This is using household objects to reserve parking spaces. Now, of course, this could be done properly if you own the parking space. It could also be done improperly to just be like, I'm going to park there. You don't get to. And in these cases, that is what we call in the industry a dick move. But in other cases, maybe it's helpful. So, parking chairs. Next, we have pigeon photography, and I don't know why this one has a little star. This is the featured article, I guess. This one gets extra credit. Pigeon photography. It's an aerial photography technique invented in the early 1900s by a German guy who used pigeons to deliver medications. That seems like a good way to do it. Instead of going to the pharmacy, get a pigeon to deliver it. Pretty cool. Then they realized, hey, we can put other stuff on the pigeons. We can have them pass notes. And it's an idea to send a note by bird that has come up in both fiction and reality. And, you know, birds could make pretty good mail people delivering mail because they got wings. They can do a bird's eye path over all the houses. Now, there's even an expression you could say like, well, as the bird would fly or something like that, that's 2 miles away. But to me, on a human, I got to go all around all the houses and it's 3 miles walk. Now, initially, the military potential appeared interesting, but I don't think that they have gone too far with the birds. Perhaps this has been because they now have more flying robots, such as drones, that are achieving what they wanted to do with the birds. But these are essentially the pre-drone version of that. So they have been used in both world wars and to a small amount after that. Now, here we have predictions of the end of Wikipedia. That's interesting. I saw an article here the other day, which I read through some of it, which is predictions of the end of the world. I wonder if that's somewhere on unusual articles or lists or stuff, which was all of the failed times someone's been like, the world's going to end on 2012 or whatever. But predictions of the end of Wikipedia, that's different. Now, alternate online encyclopedias have been proposed as replacements for Wikipedia, including Wolfram Alpha. Yeah, baby, I love Wolfram Alpha. Normally I would say no, nobody gets to replace Wikipedia. Wikipedia is holy to me. But if someone's going to replace them, better be Wolfram Alpha. The thing is, Wolfram Alpha is a lot more for math and science than for history, as far as I know. Maybe they have expanded it a lot into history, but I don't know if it's, as synonymous with Wikipedia. They do different things. Now, in 2013, Wikipedia had to raise quality control because there was some hoaxes and vandalism on the articles. Some people said there was earlier lack of sufficient references. Now, contrary to these predictions, it's grown in both size and influence, and in my opinion, they have gotten better at removing false information, adding citations, and things like that. And no encyclopedia is completely objective. Any encyclopedia was written by a person. Wikipedia is more likely it was written by a person who didn't understand the subject, but not what ends up on here. What ends up on here is heavily looked at and crafted by large teams of people. And so Wikipedia is sort of the mix between democracy and an encyclopedia. It's a democratic encyclopedia, and I think it's great. But like I said, we want to use it more to learn about concepts we didn't know, and then we research those concepts in all sorts of ways, rather than reading the Wikipedia article as you know a ton about the thing. Treat it as, now I know about this cool thing that I might want to do more research on. So, timeline of predictions. I thought this was going to be like in the future, like Wikipedia is predicted to be gone in 2080 or something. But they say here that artificial intelligence may adversely affect Wikipedia. If you had good enough AI, it could render Wikipedia obsolete. I don't know about that because AI is studying the internet to get its responses. So AI is getting a lot of its stuff from Wikipedia or from the sites that are cited in Wikipedia articles. So how is AI going to replace Wikipedia if AI is basically getting all of its information from sources like Wikipedia? AI cannot render obsolete the need for a democratic encyclopedia, which might be what the AI is trained on, but you need to train the AI on something. So, hopefully Wikipedia lasts a long, long time. Anyways, here we have Project Cybersyn. This is a strange note. Invented by a Brit with a gigantic beard. Now, I want to see this beard. I assume if the beard got a mention in the one-sentence synopsis, that's got to be a pretty epic beard. Okay, that is not a giant beard. Is that... Oh no, that's someone else's critique, maybe? Okay, who invented it? By a Brit. Come on, tell me. So this was invented... Well, it was a whole project. Where's the cool beard? You can't put that he had a massive beard in the synopsis and then not show the massive beard in the article. What the heck? I wanted to see the massive beard. Fine. We'll just look at what it is. Project Cybersyn. No, you know what? You don't get to get read, article. We're skipping you because you baited me with that one. All right, the Pythagorean Cup. These are pretty neat. Maybe I'll buy one of these sometime. I think that there are sources that actually market them as sort of a joke gift or something. But the concept is philosophical as well. Pythagoras of Samos, who this is credited to, who was the Pythagoras who founded the Pythagoreanism sort of religion and society. Now, many things that are quoted as this came from Pythagoras is unknown if they came from this guy or from his followers, because the followers are like, we're Pythagoreans, we are the Pythagorean society, and we believe Pythagoreanism. So a lot of the things they discovered, it's a little ambiguous if he invented it or if his followers did. But in any case, here, the philosophical goal is that it's a cup that you can't be greedy with. If you fill it too high before you try and drink it, all of it will pour out. Whereas if you fill it medium high, it'll stay in there. How does that work? Well, water does these siphoning effects where once it starts pouring through something, the air and the water combination want to make it keep pouring. And so if it's beyond a certain point, it will overflow into this little funnel bit, and then it will continue this siphoning process that drains most of the drink. So it's kind of neat. It actually works where, here's a modern example, or maybe an older one, but another example, where it does work to design a cup where if you half fill it, it's half filled, but if you fully fill it, it goes down to barely filled. Here we have the quartz crisis. Not a comic book story arc, but the upheaval in watchmaking caused by the introduction of quartz watches. Now, quartz watches, I guess, replaced mechanical watches, and as soon as that happened, it threw the watch industry into a state of wildness. Now, ironically, I don't really like watches. I don't imagine wearing a watch very often in my life. I don't currently even own one. I mean, maybe I have one like hanging back there somewhere that's half works. But I love clocks and I love stopped clocks, but I don't need one on my wrist. So although having a stopped watch on purpose would be a bit surreal, if I go to like a really fancy event, maybe I'll have to wear a stopped watch. So I don't care as much about this one as the other clock-related ones, but interesting that it occurred. Next, we have the radio hat, a strange-looking and strange-sounding piece of headgear. This is a hat that lets you listen to the radio. Sometimes when a new invention comes out, such as the radio gaining popularity, people will think people are going to want this everywhere in their life. And that's sort of like the Google Glass and all those ones in the Museum of Failed Inventions. All of those, except lobotomy tools, were like products from some company that thought that some modern technology thing was going to be the rage and everyone would want it. And sometimes it was that you'd want this attached to your body in a strange way, like the Google Glass, or like the new thing of where I think it might be Elon Musk trying to invent something you put in your brain. I am not letting a company put something in my brain. Now, here's just a radio hat, still kind of over the top, but, you know, maybe useful for some people who like listening to the radio on the go. I hope it comes with headphones because it'd be kind of annoying to be on the bus with someone with a radio hat if it doesn't have headphones. Anyway, next we have the Royal Mail rubber band, and I believe this is an example of waste that certain industries can cause by their protocols. It says that the way mail is delivered in the United Kingdom consumes nearly 1 billion rubber bands per year used to tie bundles of letters at sorting offices. There's been many complaints of how wasteful this is. How wasteful it is to design all of them, requires taking up resources, and then where do they go? Now we have all these rubber bands to deal with. And it seems like a lot are discarded. Like you might find these rubber bands in the street or sewer relatively frequently. And the Royal Mail claims we instruct the staff to reuse them. And they changed the color of the bands. Hopefully they are responding to this a bit, because you got to be careful if you're a giant company. Don't have some protocol that on the big scale will cause a lot of waste. Now, next, we got our Russian floating nuclear power station. Interesting, but, we may have to skip through a few of these that are just like, I don't know if I would categorize all of these as that unusual, depending on my bar for unusuality. I'm going to be clicking on the ones that I find more unusual. This one, again, we'll skim through fast. The Sony timer. Planned obsolescence is companies designing products that they plan to die at some point or to be obsolete in another way so that you have to buy a new version of that product every few years. And apparently some people believe Sony used some sort of timer on things that would make them worse after you'd had them a long enough time. Now here is an interesting one. So sporks. Sporks are half spoon, half fork. Well, why not have a knife somewhere in the mix? The third common piece of silverware in a lot of places. This one is trying to do it. 1/3 spoon, 1/3 knife, and 1/3 fork. Although they're rounding these, because if we actually add these, we have 0.1% left, which is 0.1% is 1,000th. So 1,000th of this blade is unaccounted for. But in any case, the name is not great. Why Splade? First of all, if it's supposed to be a play on words on blade, then it should have ended in DE instead. I don't know why the YD, because that's not really in any of these words like that. And fork isn't in the name. Where'd fork go? Spork is spoon fork. Why can't they call it like a Beniork, or something that actually uses all three. Leave a comment on what you think the best name of combining spoon, knife, and fork into one word would be. Now, the splayed, how does it look? The splay, where's the spoon part? I don't see the knife part of this. Oh, maybe the edge right there is super sharp or something? Just a spork with a really sharp edge? I don't know, but it seems useful if you were camping or something. One utensil to do all three. Okay, here we have the Tempest Prognosticator, and also known as the leech barometer. Leeches, which are a small parasitic animal, are used as a barometer, and a barometer measures air pressure in environments. So they're kept in small bottles. They become agitated by approaching storms and try and climb out of the bottle and trigger a small hammer which strikes a bell. It's a pretty cool 1800s invention. The likelihood of a storm is indicated by the number of times the bell is struck. So it's sort of like ancient devices they would make to calculate earthquakes and stuff coming. But this one is pretty interesting because it's calculating air pressure and it's using tiny parasitic animals to try and climb out of a thing and bump a bell. So how accurate is it? Merriweather spent all of 1850 testing the device, sending a letter to the president of the Philosophical and these institutes to warn of an impending storm. The results of 28 of these predictions are kept in a library, and he stated in an essay that he had great success. I want to read those sometime. The results of 28 of the predictions. Were they correct? How often was this correct? At least 3 replicas have been made. This sounds like a hard thing to make a replica of. You got to import some leeches. And as usual, the C also is always like more pretty strange articles. Frog battery, miner's canary, you know, the canary in the coal mine, and some other strange ones. The snail telegraph. Okay, well, this is a pseudoscientific one, but some of these are maybe somewhat scientific. Now, we're almost at the end of our first section of all this. I don't know how much of this we will get through today because there are several more sections. This is all just in this upper header before we get to 4 subsections. So we'll see how far we go, but at least through the rest of these, let's note we have the Turbo Incalculator, which is fictional, that it became an in-joke with engineers. So I guess this one is more of a humorous example of using strange jargon to create a name that seems like it makes sense in a particular field as an outsider, but doesn't actually. It's like when a dad pranks the kid by making them at the gas station go in and ask for blinker fluid at the front station, which doesn't exist. So here we have the Uncanny Valley, which may get its own video or episode someday. It's very interesting. It is something humans have evolved over time. Like, some people think it's spooky we evolved this, and it's not necessarily supernatural. We mostly evolved this in a response to people who were dead bodies that could spread germs, as well as maybe people who were had rabies or some infectious disease, that we are not very scared. This is graphing scaredness and how close it is to a human. Well, we're not very scared by stuff that look really different than humans. I don't know how a humanoid robot is there or whatever. But we're not scared by stuff that looks exactly like humans. We're not scared by stuff that looks really different than humans. But we're scared by stuff that's in this little valley before it looks like a human, where it looks almost like a human, but not quite. So if you were looking at how scary is something and you're like, not at all like a human, I'm not scared. A little like a human, not that scared. Really close to a human, scary, but identical to a human, not scary again. And so this is why certain things like zombies are scary, why some dolls appear scary or clowns can appear scary. This is why a lot of, almost human things, AI, robots and stuff, can appear scary under certain contexts. So this is going to become more of an applicable concept over time with humanoid robots developed. It's something we adapted in response to being around dead bodies in the past, but nowadays we're not around dead bodies much. We have better disposal methods for them, but we are going to be around AI robots, so this will still be applicable for a long time. Now, next we have a useless machine, which they say it's a device whose only function is to turn itself off. So, a useless box. Kind of funny. Some have been used in information theory, but the ones that are actually developed are sort of just an interesting gimmick, a useless box. Okay, next we have the Vin Mariani, which is a drink made from a particular substance that people actually don't usually drink nowadays. People who use this substance typically snort it up their nose. That's because it's a much higher absorption rate there. Different chemicals you'll use are absorbed in different ways. Some of them more are absorbed in your stomach. Some, like this one, more are absorbed in your sinuses or whatever, in your nostrils somewhere. Don't ask me why I know these details. Anyway, way back in the day, it was actually used in drinks a lot. And the brand Coke of soda, fully known as Coca-Cola, actually used to contain this substance. The coca came from the root of the plant that is used to make this, and it used to contain some. And so back in the day, there literally was cocaine in Coca-Cola. Now, these guys were going extra hard. Coca-Cola wasn't enough for them, or maybe this was before that. But this was a drink that many, including some famous historical figures, would drink. How about rap rage? You ever been driven mad by packaging that won't open? Oh boy, the worst is if you're trying to unwrap something like scissors and they make the packaging for the scissors really hard to open, and you're like, to open this, I need scissors. And if I had scissors, I wouldn't have bought the scissors. The only circumstance where I have this package is the circumstance where I can't open it. So, then you have to use a knife and try not to cut yourself, and they gotta chill out with making packages so hard to open. If you manufacture stuff, chill out. Come on, you're trying to prevent theft, probably, so people can't unwrap it at the store and steal it and leave the barcode on the packaging. But, oh, come on, is 1% more theft reducing that worth making 99% of your customers really angry when they try and open it? Okay, I'm sure a lot of people cut themselves on it. They say here, there's common injuries from trying to open packages. Okay, so careful when you open your scissor packages. Now, the final one in this top section is, again, one I'm probably going to mispronounce, Zhanxingzhe. This is a Chinese robot that, according to the Japanese, will save its country from corporate capitalism with its crotch cannon. This is a whole, alliterative string. A lot of alliteration. Save the country from corporate capitalism with the crotch cannon. Here, it's a robot. This is scary. I don't want this thing coming at me with something called a crotch cannon. It was hailed as a major technological breakthrough. Okay, what is this thing supposed to do? The Chinese cannon. Oh, okay. I thought they meant a cannon that it uses from some part at your crotch. That's why I was like, dear Lord. But apparently it's its crotch that has the cannon. Okay. A tiny robot that can shoot you. I don't think that's going to stop corporate capitalism. All right, so we have many other sections here, and some of these are shorter. I think we'll at least go through some of these shorter sections right here, but we might not look at every single article in it. We may just, skim through some of them. Here we have the Committee to End Pay Toilets in America. There's a committee who doesn't want you to ever have to pay to go to the bathroom. Bathrooms should be free, I guess. I think I support that. Then we have a very racist toothpaste, apparently, from Taiwan. Then we have a fatberg, which is when you put too much fat and stuff down the drain, this will build up in a sewer system. And they found a 250-meter long, 140-ton specimen. Okay, a female urination device. If you want to pee while you're standing up and you have a part down there that makes it more difficult for you to do that than the average person who does have a penis, then you have a device. The groom of the stool, the most intimate royal office. This is the assistant of the king that helps the king with things like going to the bathroom. You got to really trust that guy and feel comfortable around him. Now we got hotel toilet paper folding. It's a common practice in hotels to assure guests the bathroom has been cleaned. They make like a little seal on top. They're like, look, we were here. The interactive urinal communicator is a talking urinal made for advertising purposes. This one even has a screen above it. I do not support this. When I'm peeing, do not give me an advertisement. Now we have the iLoo, Microsoft's attempt to bring you interweb inside the portable toilet. It's a portable toilet with the internet. That sounds bad because there's always a line for portable toilets when it's like a porta potty. And like, imagine how much worse the line would be if whenever who's in there they're also on the screen. Okay, Jack Black, and not the actor. This Jack Black was a 19th century rat catcher who bred unusually colored rats and sold them as pets. But he also apparently killed a lot of rats. It says he had rat killing abilities that made him a minor celebrity. Strange. Japanese toilets are apparently the most advanced in the world, with computers, nozzles, and flashing lights. This sounds like an oversimplification, but perhaps true in a general sense. Lloyd Banks' turd is possibly the largest example of fossilized human feces. And we have something that the technical term, this is technical to anyone who doesn't want me to swear, I'm just being technical, it's called the shit flow diagram. We don't need to look at whatever that is, though. The stainless steel soap, metallic soap that apparently removes odors from the hands. I don't think I'm going to trust stainless steel soap. I think I want my soap to be made out of maybe soap. Okay, we have toilet-related injuries. There's a whole list of all the toilet-related injuries. Sometimes there's an animal, like a black widow, hiding under the seat. Sometimes a self-induced injury on the toilet. Exploding toilets. In the Victorian era, there was a perceived risk of toilets exploding. And these are some historical deaths. This toilet this toilet caused the ship to flood, basically. I think. Oh no, it made the submarine resurface. Oh, okay, no, it was the opposite. The submarine had to go back. It was already underwater. It's a submarine. It had to go back to the top. And then the enemies saw it and sunk it. This one was murdered. And apparently the assassin made sure which of the ancient toilets belonged to his room and went under the bathroom or something. And I think did he stab him through the toilet somehow? Anyway, there's several classic ones, and yes, they include the classic one that is not just an urban legend, that Elvis, the famous musician, did die while using the toilet. Now, this guy was not very healthy at that point. He was a very large weight, and he ate a lot of peanut butter and bacon sandwiches, and he ate a lot of bacon, and was not incredibly healthy. But those are some famous cases. We're almost done with the hygiene section. Don't worry, folks. Toilet papering, art or vandalism. This is when you do a very mild form of vandalism where you throw toilet paper over something. The orientation. Do you put it over or under the roll? Many arguments have been caused. Leave a comment if you have a strong opinion either way. I think it should go over, like in that picture, but I don't have a strong opinion. I'm not going to get offended if it's going the other way. And here we have a fake penis that is used to beat drug tests. So sometimes if you take a drug test, people will, you have to have like someone of the organization drug testing you kind of watching you do it to make sure that you're not just like secretly doing something else. But this is a fake device that makes it look like you're actually peeing, but what's coming out is, I guess, clean urine that doesn't have drugs in it. I don't know. Either don't do drugs or don't work for that type of company, so you don't have to use one of those. Okay, now we have clothing and accessories. We're going to kind of skim through this one as well. We have the aglet, and yes, this is the name for the bit at the end of a shoelace. Okay, I'm not that flexible. This little thing, if you can see it, is an aglet. So I love when something you didn't know had a name has a name. Oh, the dress, this optical illusion, is it blue and black or white and gold? I almost always see this as white and gold. I've been able to make my brain snap to seeing it blue and black. And it's an interesting optical illusion, because if you see it as blue and black, or white and gold, you can make your mind flip if you do it right to see the other. And what this is based around is that we don't know in a photo what the lighting is like, because we're not in the room. And this either could be a really lit up photo of blue and black, or a really dark photo of white and gold. So leave a comment if you have only been able to see it one of those two ways, because some people can only see it one way or only see it the other way. For me, usually white and gold, but let me see if I can flip my brain. Okay, can we flip and see it as blue and black? Imagine that this is really lit up with a flash and there's a flash. Yes, I got it. It looks blue and black. Optical illusions are pretty crazy. Okay. Next, we have the fat suit. It's a suit that makes you look fat. These are typically worn by actors or actresses. However, maybe you just wear one on the train once in a while. I don't know why, but maybe. There's also a gorilla suit, if you want to look like a gorilla. Is there a fat gorilla suit? Do they have the combination where you look like a fat gorilla? Okay, here we have an unusual garment in Western New Guinea known as the penis gourd. It's a sheath. Okay, so it's I guess it's, you sheath your thing inside this. This is attached to the front of your pants or something, maybe. I don't know. These are some people. Okay, no, I'm not going to scroll down there. It does not show any full nudity, but I still don't want to get my stream in any trouble. They show some people wearing them, and these people are not wearing much except that. They're wearing a little bit of headgear, and then they're wearing a thing around their thing. So, next, we have the meat dress that Lady Gaga wore as a very strange form of fashion. We also have a slang term called a muffin top, which is kind of mean. It's just like a kind of mean slang term to try and insult people who are a little overweight compared to the clothes they're wearing. There's shoe tossing, which the practice of throwing shoes, whether for humorous or political purposes. One time someone threw a shoe at George Bush. The sweater curse. Do you think your loved one will be pleased if you knit them a sweater? Think again. The sweater curse believes that if you knit or crochet a hand-knit sweater for your significant other, you'll break up. Some say maybe even before the sweater is completed. I don't believe this. It says the existence of this phenomena is anecdotal and may be related to confirmation bias. Knitters may remember breakups more clearly after giving a hand-knit sweater, which represents a significant investment of money, time, and effort, and romantic imagination. So, I think this is usually not the case, but perhaps one way I could imagine there being a correlation is if your relationship is already on rocky ground, and so you imagine if I knit them this really personal hand knit thing, it'll fix it. And that's why you're knitting the sweater, to try and fix something that's already going wrong in the relationship. Maybe then. But if you're in a happy relationship, knit your dang sweaters. Ignore the curse. They have a whole article about this shirt that for some reason became a meme image of three wolves howling at the moon. And they have a tinfoil hat, which is typically, in the past, some people maybe thought that tinfoil protects me from weird radio waves and stuff that I think's bad. Oh, 5G, better wear my tinfoil. But now it's typically used as an expression to, like, you know, an expression for people that are really paranoid about some conspiracy theory-esque thing. But sometimes people actually wear them, whether it is to signify a joke, signify that I stand with conspiracy theorists and I'm going to reclaim this symbol, or whether they actually believe that it's protecting them from 5G or radio or whatever. Okay, so that are those sections. And I do need to run inside to, ironically, since we recently did the toilet section, I have to run inside to take a pee. I'll be back quite shortly. So this is our second brief intermission. I'll be briefer this time. And hope you stick around for a moment. Leave a comment about any of the transport ones. I'll shrink it a little, that you would like to see us discuss, because as usual I'm skimming these a bit, but any requests, maybe I'll look a little more detailed at the article. And we have a lot of other cool comments I will come back to later. Somebody says the text of the turbo encabulator is really funny how it gets more and more nonsensical. Okay, I'll pull open in another tab, the turbo encalculator, in case we want to look back at it. What? I thought that's what it was called. The turbo... Oh, they thought I was searching for turbo calculator, not encalculator. What? Okay, whatever. It was called something like that. Where is it? The turbo encalculator. Where'd it go? I'll pull that open in another tab. Oh, it's one word. Because somebody noted the text is pretty funny in that article. Okay, I will be back very shortly. Leave a comment on if any of these transport ones you especially want me to go deep into. And we're going to see if we can keep streaming. Might take 3 hours. I don't know if we can get through the whole section, the whole transport section, and then the last section, which is the computing section. There's a lot of stuff there. We'll see if we get through all of them today. But with an intermission here and there, I think we will. Okay, be back soon. Oh, God, I'm trapped. Okay. Yes, we're back. So, thanks to everyone who stuck around. And now we are in our section of Strange Wikipedia that is... it's called the Turbo Encabulator. That's why I wasn't finding it. Now, we're on a section of strange transport. Many of these may be some, like, of those unsolved or solved mysteries where a ship or plane vanished or something. We're not going to look at every single one of these articles. Let's kind of skim through and note that here is a case where some things caused a deadly aviation incident. Here, something was stolen with at least 2 people aboard and never found. There are times where, here they're making a joke, I think, to the movie Snakes on a Plane. Maybe this one actually did have reptiles on a plane. And there's a lot of incidents in space, or in flying and even sailing and things like that. So those ones we're going to skip by, and the next one that's not seemingly about that is the East German traffic light little man who has a name, the Ampelmannchen. And the Ampelmannchen is this little guy that signals if it's a green light or red light. Now we got some Amtrak paint schemes. These are the various colors. I thought they meant schemes, like I'm scheming with paint. I made an evil plan. They mean schemes as in just like the color scheme. So maybe not as interesting as the other type of scheme. There is an article about animals taking public transportation, non-human commuters. You know, when should that be allowed or not? And which animals should be allowed or not? And this section, okay, here's an interesting one. Well, before we get there, let's see what this is. The neon crossing sign was somebody's solution of crossing a dangerous intersection. A giant neon sign lit up with the words, "Stop, death, stop," beneath a lighted skull and crossbones. They really wanted to scare people into being careful right there. However, there was a scarcity of neon in World War II and maintenance problems, so they stopped it. Now, this one is pretty funny. Bodie McBoatface. I don't know if you folks have heard this story. I know this story, at least. They decided for an important research vessel to let the public vote on what it should be named. Other things have tried this too. I believe there was one where Mountain Dew tried it, and people left some pretty offensive things that got the top votes. I like this more, where you're not giving them an offensive thing that they either have to call their thing something offensive or they have to, ignore the poll, go back on their word that they were letting the public decide. This is a better sort of prank on the poll, to just make a ridiculous name that doesn't offend anyone, but that they just wouldn't have called their thing ever. Like Bodie McBoatface being the official name that... Did they actually name it that? Yep, I think they went through with their word and actually named it Bodie McBoatface. Good for them. Now, next we have a variety of other transit ones, which, like I said, I'm skipping through some of the ones that are just, this is a strange thing about a plane or train or ship. If any of you have any that catch your eye, let me know and maybe I'll click on them. But for now, I'm going to go to the ones that I really think are unusual, at least from what I can get from the name and synopsis. For example, what about the one called Experiment? That sounds interesting. Experiment was an early boat powered by horses. They say when this was 8 horsepower, they literally mean 8 horsepowers as horses. Now, horsepower is weird because horsepower is measured by like a certain type of thing of how much, or it's not like how much a horse could do in a quick span. It's like how much a horse could do if it continued throughout a longer span. And so at a quick span, I believe horses are like 2 horsepower or something weird like that. Like, why is 1 horse 2 horsepower worth? Because the horsepower is if you had the horse working all day or something like that. So this was an experiment to have a boat with horses on it. Not surprised it was a financial failure. All right, the fastest shed. This is a motorized shed that was used to break the land speed record for sheds. I didn't know they had a record for how fast sheds can move, but apparently they do, and this one won. And now we got, what's Gadgetbahn? Gadgetbahn refers to a public transport concept or implementation that is supposedly futuristic or innovative, but in practice is not. And this is sort of a slang term for a lot of things. And get out and push railroad. They say it's what it sounds like. They requested its patrons to assist trains over the steeper parts of the route. Imagine if you're on a train and they like ring a bell and they're like, all right, everyone get off, help push the train up this hill. Okay, so over here we have some other interesting things. And what about human mail? Mailing a human. This is another one that has become a bad trend on YouTube. There's all these channels aimed at kids that have done a video of I mailed myself overseas, and the videos are faked, but then kids might think it's possible and try and do it themselves. The ones that actually have a ton of views on YouTube, nobody tried to get in a box, but there's probably some kid with 20 subscribers who did try. Now, so if you're making a video where you pretend to ship yourself overseas, it's somewhat morally your obligation to make it obvious to the kids you didn't actually do it. So these are cases where it actually happened, though. This guy was a slave who escaped in a shipping box. This guy, as a stunt, mailed himself. This guy mailed himself twice, once by ordinary mail, once by registered mail. Okay, yeah, I don't know if I would go on a box and just trust the postal agency to get me anywhere, but apparently it sometimes works. This guy broke out of a prison by climbing into a box in the mailroom and got mailed away, or at least brought to another center. This guy, though, shipped himself to his girlfriend as a prank, and he nearly died because the courier took 3 hours, and I guess he didn't have enough air holes. And the box was too thick for him to puncture it. When he arrived, his girlfriend found him unconscious, and he had to be revived by paramedics. Oh my God, that must have been traumatizing for her. She gets a package, and she opens it, and it's her boyfriend unconscious. And they probably had to revive him before he went, "It's just a prank, girl." Okay. Next, we have more strange sorts of transit. And I am skimming through these a bit to make sure we can just get to what I think are the most unusual looking of the entire section of technology. And they included a lot in the transit section. For example, the specific yellow color used on school buses in the United States. And these look like different colors of yellow, but I guess this is the one they're referring to, and that is the type of school bus I rode on as a child. Now, there's a variety. Oh, tall bike. These are when people. Oh, I thought they meant the wheels. I thought they meant those old-fashioned ones where one wheel's really big, but here the wheels are normal sized and it's just really tall. That'd be scary to ride. Now we have a few other interesting ones about transit, but we'll just jump to this last one, the wrong type of snow, which was a British media attempt to explain why many of their rail services were disrupted. So they were not prepared for the type of weather that happened, and in the weather they were not able to hold up their typical schedule. And they apparently said that, oh, like we could have handled snow if it was the right type of snow, is implied there. Our train's fine if it's the right type of snow, but that's the wrong type of snow. And in the public, it became a, byword for pointless excuses that are, this is a ridiculous excuse, trying to, I don't know. You can get the joke. Anyway, not there. Okay, the wrong type of snow is now an expression, I guess. I'll use that as an excuse whenever something goes wrong here. There's not even snow here, so it'll be an even worse excuse. Now we are on our final section of technology, inventions, and products. Apart from the subsections of the turbo encabulators, text, and the list of inventors killed by their own invention. In this mostly last section, we have computing. And these first are a bunch of domains, because you can get other ones that aren't .com. Like, I kind of wanted to get something like combo.class, and you can get like .orgs now and various stuff, but these are stranger ones. This one's not sold. It's made for an Antarctic island where no one lives. This is the top level of North Korea. This is a few other ones that are strange ones, but let's jump down to the first that isn't just an extension to a website. This is the 999 phone charging myth. Apparently, some people thought that if you call the emergency hotline in the UK, in the US it's 911, there it's 999. Luckily, it's not like this really funny gag in this show, the IT Crowd, where there's like a 20-digit emergency number, so they write an email about a fire that's going on because that's the most efficient way. Luckily, a lot of the numbers are actually just 3 digits, and this one is 999 in the UK, but apparently a lot of people thought if you call the emergency number, it charges your phone for some reason. How are they going to do that? They're sending sound waves. They're not sending charging waves. So this would waste a lot of time of emergency operators, I'm assuming, and probably was pretty bad for people who actually had an emergency, who were like on hold with the operator because someone else was trying to charge their phone. Here we have the any key, where things said press any key to continue. It's a pretty common prompt on a computer, press any key. But they have a joke in The Simpsons and probably other shows about where people are like, but where's the any key? Where's the key that says any? I only see like caps lock, tab, escape. Where's any? And the funny thing here to me is that sometimes it's not any key. Sometimes it's any key that triggers a certain type of prompt to the computer, like any letter or spacebar. But sometimes something like caps lock doesn't trigger that. It's just like setting it up for the next trigger to be different. And sometimes when it says press any key to continue, shift or caps lock might not actually do it. So it's not quite any key. Here they say, to make it obvious for viewers, some remote controls for DVD players by Samsung have an any key. A key that says any key. So they're like, press any key to continue. I wonder if you actually, in that case, have to press the any key and none of the others work. Anyways, I think most people will understand what press any key to continue as long as that's lowercase, but I can see the comical confusion. Now, going forward, we have blinking lights, which are diagnostic lights on old computers. We have the BOGO sort, the world's worst sorting algorithm. I like this. I've read about this. It's funny. So, it is the worst sorting mechanism. An analogy for it is to randomize a deck of cards by just throwing them all up and mixing them up super randomly and picking them up in a random order and looking if the deck's shuffled and it like correctly in the order you want. If it's not, like let's say you wanted the deck of cards to be in a particular order. And if it's not, you repeat the process until it is. So this algorithm just is like, throw it up at the wall, pick it back up in a randomish way, and does it fit? Nope, try again. Now, the funniest bit about this is there's a lot of other ones that are like other joke versions of this, and the quantum one is interesting. Quantum BOGO sort, a hypothetical sorting algorithm. As an in-joke among computer scientists, here's what it does. It generates a random permutation of what it's looking for, like the deck of cards in a random order, using a quantum source of entropy, that it checks if the list is sorted. If the list is not sorted, it destroys the universe. Assuming that the many worlds interpretation holds, this bit's carrying a lot of weight, the use of this algorithm will result in at least one surviving universe where the input was successfully sorted in this. It's a way of describing different sorts of time compared to the amount of things in your input. So which we can call big O, sometimes it's called. Now, that's a good one. You destroy the universe and assume the many worlds interpretation holds. Now, there's some other jokes about that. Going back to our main list, we have an Easter egg in a series of browsers. We have this one, which, remember, folks, anyone who gets mad at me swearing, hopefully including YouTube, I need to say terms properly unless the term is really offensive to a particular group of people. I will say the word as we encounter it, and in this case the word is brainfuck, and it is a very minimalistic language with 8 commands, a data pointer and an instruction pointer. Now, I read about this one before, and what it led me is to the maybe even more interesting article. Well, down here it's interesting, showing like really simple but really hard to actually use versions. Like the main one here is, these are your options for your 8 symbols. And if we want to add 2 values, it takes a lot. If we want to display a word, it takes a lot. So the more interesting one here is perhaps that it's an example of what they call a Turing target. Now, the Turing test, or things being Turing complete, relates to the abilities of certain, I don't know how to describe them, certain languages. So, for example, if you have a language that is Turing complete, it can achieve this whole goal of calculations and descriptions, and this whole world of things are possible from it. But how easy are they? A Turing target is when something is Turing complete, but is so complicated to actually, or so long to actually put together to reach what you want. Here, Alan Perlis coined the term where he said, beware of the Turing target, in which everything is possible, but nothing of interest is easy. So essentially, this is like a language like one of these, where they could do something like create an algorithm that describes a chessboard and an entire game of you playing chess against a particular computer opponent, but it would take an absurd amount of code to do it in some of these. So, back to our list, we have some of these that I'm not going to fully go into because they're going to get their own episodes someday, which are cellular automata, such as Brian's brain right here, Conway's game of life. These are ones that are going to get into an episode of mine someday about different cellular automata. I have even invented a version of one of these of my own that I believe is very unique. And those, for that reason, because I plan on making a larger scale thing about them already, we won't go into yet. Here we have questions of whether there was a right-wing conspiracy or a glitch. Here we have a pair of mathematicians who built a supercomputer out of square parts. They did this to develop a very, popular in math, algorithm to calculate the digits of pi quickly and with extreme precision. This is an algorithm. I don't know if it's still the fastest, but for a while at least, this was the best way to calculate pi. Oh yeah, it says in 2009, it set a world record of how much of pi it calculated. Same in 2011, same in 2016. Okay, it set all these world records. It looks like this is still the best algorithm. It set another world record of 202 trillion digits of pi. Literally, what is that? 2.5 months ago. A little under 3 months ago. So yeah, less than 3 months ago, this algorithm developed by these brothers set a new record for how many digits of pi we know. Creeper and Reaper, the world's very first computer virus and antivirus, which they designed on purpose. They were testing computer viruses, so they made one called Creeper and one called Reaper that was supposed to test ways of eliminating viruses. Now we have the electric unicycle. What's that? Go away. The ongoing academic effort to teach robots to ride unicycles. Still an ongoing academic effort, as they phrase it. How about the Elvis operator? Is an operator in programming languages, often written with a question mark, then a colon, and it is a normal operator, but happens to have an unusual name. There is emoji, a now defunct emoji-only social network. Started as a parody of Yo. See below. Okay, where's Yo? Yo. A messaging service whose only function was to send Yo to people. Okay, yeah. If that's the only function of the messaging service, I'm going to go back over here, I think. If that's the only thing of the messaging service is to send Yo, I don't think it's going to get that popular. So here they took it a little further. You could now send emojis, but only those. I wonder if you could still send... You can't send the word yo on emoji, probably. All right. Enshittification is when every site that you enjoy gets worse and worse. It's a sad fact of life that things that are popular... You encounter this more often with companies and products, but it happens with websites as well. I mean, it's just as common with websites, it just might be harder to observe. But with products, for example, you might be like, this fruit drink I used to buy used to taste better and used to have healthier ingredients. What happened? Well, if something gets really popular, then eventually the original inventor is going to be really old and sell it or die, and someone else is going to take charge. And at some point in different people having control over a company, someone might come along, and they do come along, who cares about money more than keeping the product in good faith with the consumers, and now has this brand name or website name that draws people in, that people trust. And they sort of abuse that trust by knowing people will still be drawn in for a while, even if they change how they do the website, or even if they change the ingredients in the product. They know that for at least a little while, long enough for them to make some money, people will still come to it because of the name they know. And maybe it'll take a while before people are like, oh, this product started to suck. Maybe by that point, they won't be CEO anymore and they made all their money. So, if people continue combo class after I'm gone, do not enshittify it. Keep our combo spirit going. Now, esoteric programming languages. Evil bits and guru meditation errors. These are some more technological glitches. We even have a Heisenbug, a programming bug that tries to disappear when you study it. So it's a bug, but if you try and look at it, it tries to hide itself or delete itself. Here we have the hypertext coffee pot control protocol. This is a protocol for controlling and monitoring coffee pots, originally seeming to be part of an April Fool's prank. Oh man, this one showed how dumb some people are. I remember this. I Am Rich. It's a button, it's an app that the only thing it has is a little glowing red gem and an icon that when pressed displays the misspelled mantra, I am rich, I deserve it, I'm good, healthy, and successful. And some people actually bought this app for $1,000. Remember, when they put the nines, it's to make the price look smaller. We're allowed to call these prices by 1 cent more to describe what the price really is. That's $1,000, you know? So this was a point the guy tried to make about how apps cost too much, but it ended up kind of working. And then I bet he had copycats who tried to do the same and probably didn't work as well. It's like when someone made a Kickstarter project for a potato salad and actually got a lot of money, and then when people tried to copy that, it wasn't as innovative or funny. Or like that egg that got like a bajillion likes on something and like beat the record, a random picture of an egg. They're like, let's make this random picture of an egg the most liked picture on, I think it was Instagram or maybe Facebook. And it became the most liked picture. But then other people are like, well, yeah, how about I'm going to make this picture of this banana the most liked. And now it's not a funny new concept, so nobody cares. So here we have a few other interesting ones. I'm going to go to the most unusual seeming because it's a long list. And this seems kind of unusual. The eye smell, a computer application of digital scent technology. Somehow they load actual like perfumes or something into your computer so that it can create smells that I guess mirror like a video you're watching or something. So, like, you're watching a video where someone's in a field of nice smelling flowers, it puts that out. Maybe you're watching something gross and it smells really bad. I don't know. This seems like a really bad idea. I don't think we need smells when we're watching a show. I think we're good on audio and visual. Also, like, how can you make all the smells? You load like a giant perfume cartridge with all these different combinations. All right, we have hacker language, which anyone who actually talks in this language probably does not know how to hack anything. Here we have a few other interesting ones. Looking for the strangest ones. This seems interesting. Not a typewriter. Well, what is it? Not a typewriter is an error code. Well, it's correctly named. I don't know if the name is useful, but it's at least correct. It's not a typewriter. Most things could be named that, though. In fact, anything that, as you know, isn't a typewriter could be named that. But they took the name, so there's only one not a typewriter now that it's become popular. Now, on the cruelty of really teaching computer science is an academic paper that argues that computer programming should be understood as a branch of math and that the formal provability of a program is a major criterion for correctness. So it seems like a paper that's actually trying to say things about computer science, but the title, I don't know if that's a joke or not, makes it seem quite cruel. It reminds me of how there's a lot of books called Something Made Easy, and then there's this book called, I think it might be Calculus, I'm not positive if it's Calculus, but there's a textbook called something like Calculus Made Hard. Kind of a funny question, like how hard can you make it? Now, here we have some more interesting ones, and I don't know if we will send me to heaven, throwing your phone as close to heaven as you can get without getting it there. The phone somehow knows if you throw it. Okay, the app was banned from the App Store, because imagine how many people are going to break their phone if the game is, I want a higher score on the app, and it measures how high you throw it somehow. It's calculated via the phone's accelerometer. So I imagine you could trick it somehow to get a high score, but still dangerous for your phone. All right, get a phone case before you get this app. This one, Temple OS, a biblical-themed operating system designed by a single schizophrenic programmer over the course of 10 years after supposedly receiving instructions from God. Some assembly required. Here notes that the first webcam was a coffee machine in Cambridge University. The Utah Teapot is a in-joke, I suppose, in the computer graphics community. And yo, we have already encountered. Now, here's the thing. That got us through technology, inventions, and products. But that is only one section out of many that each contains subsections. So these are all the subsections. I'm undoing the subsections now. And before I go to the last few articles I have saved in other tabs to look at today, note that at some point we will return to this. I don't usually do 2 streams back to back on the same topic, so there will probably be other topics for the next stream or 2. But next time we return to Weird Wikipedia with some other subtitle, it will be one of these other sections. So mathematics and numbers, I know a lot of you will want, but that'll probably come last because some of the concepts I want to make episodes about already. So leave a comment if you want any of these to be next, like places in infrastructure, history, or food, or folklore, any of these big categories. If you want any of those to be our next topic of Weird Wikipedia. Okay, so the other 2 that we still have open here are the Turbo Encabulator, because I skimmed by it and someone noted that it's funny to read the text. So it's a sort of a parody of what sounds like it could be a device in the field, but is non-existent. There are even a number of marketing videos made as parodies. And some of these, I think, are the texts that one of the comments said are funny. So let me read through these. This one was written by John Hellens Quick in 1944. The original machine has a base plate of prefabulated aluminite, surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing in such a way that the two main spurving bearings were in a direct line with the pentametric fan. So, if you haven't guessed, most of these are non-existent terms. The latter consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic Marslavanes, so fitted to the ambifacient lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented. The main winding was of the normal Lotuso-delta type, placed in panendermic semi-bovoid slot. Did the commenter just comment this to try and make me pronounce all of these non-existent words? It's harder than you think to read out loud a paragraph with a bunch of things that look like normal words and aren't. Panendermic semi-bovoid slots in the stator, every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible tremi pipe to the differential girdle spring on the up end of the grammeters. So, and they have all these things where they make it sound real. And I wonder how many times somebody asked, like, I got a new job at this place. Am I going to have to work on the turbo encabulators? And all the old employees laughed at them. So yeah, that one's pretty good. And now, the final page I currently have open, although if convinced I could continue the stream for more pages later, the final one I currently have. First let me just go through comments and note that somebody noted the Voynich manuscript, which is very interesting, and they probably have on another section of unusual articles. We'll probably encounter that in their unusual history section or something. Now, the one I have open is List of inventors killed by their own invention. And we briefly skimmed this list in the past, but given that today we're talking about unusual articles related to technology and inventions, I think we have to go through this article as well. So, careful when you build a car. This person died of a heart attack or car crash, so I'm not sure which one did it, with a self-invented car. This guy found a new way to motorize bicycles, but fell off his prototype during a test run. This guy was killed when driving an automobile when he drove it into a woodpile trying to avoid farm wagons. You know, if there's a lot of farm wagons on the road, careful driving your homemade, whatever automobile it is. This person had another accident. What about planes, though? If you think making cars and bikes is dangerous, we can see the list is a little longer for planes. You know, I would say anyone who makes a homemade plane and actually tries to fly really far in a homemade plane, we're getting close to like 50-50 odds you survive that. Now, aviation, there are people who tried to fly. Oh, a squirrel. Who tried to... Oh, he already has a nut. Yeah, he got a nut from the neighbor. Where aviation, these are some examples of some incidents. Someone tried to fly with 2 wooden wings and rope. You know, I actually read, this isn't on the list, but that Leonardo da Vinci, who had prototypes for flying wingsuit devices and was an inventor of many actual inventions. Leonardo da Vinci is one of the most brilliant people in all of history. I would say, like, my top ever people I like idolize throughout history who are on that level of like, how did they discover so much cool stuff? Like in math, you have Euler. And as a general overall scientist, I put Da Vinci on that level of like godlike science abilities because he was in so many fields he innovated in. He's known almost more as a painter nowadays, which is weird because the paintings are just one of many things he did. And in my opinion, the paintings are like one of the, while impressive, not the most impressive thing he's done. And apparently he did have one of his assistants test a wingsuit and they either got really hurt or died. I'm not sure on the details. So I don't know if it was his fault or if the assistant volunteered or what. Maybe we'll look that up later. We actually might have to do a live stream where we just look at like tales from Da Vinci's life. What a guy. Da Vinci even was maybe the first to hypothesize about natural selection type of evolution before Charles Darwin. In some of the texts he wrote about why sea animals with shells must have gotten onto different parts of land somehow, because now there's dried up shells not next to the sea. And he wrote this stuff that was hinting at the types of evolution that Charles Darwin later proved things about. Now, here we have other aviation incidents: a hang glider, a homemade parachute, another glider, a coat parachute. This guy he's a tailor. That's somebody who makes coats and things. And he tried to make a coat that was a parachute and jumped off the Eiffel Tower with a coat he thought was a parachute. Apparently, the authorities tried to step in, and he promised them he was going to use a fake dummy. But then at the last minute, he's like, nope, I'm doing it. I trust my coat parachute. Bad idea. Now, this person had a self-constructed airplane. This person had a flying car they tried to make. This person tried to modify an aircraft. And this person tried to make a flying taxi. That is wild. Each of these is like a different type of flying vehicle. How about chemistry? Now, Marie Curie, this is a different sort of it. Killed by her own invention. This is one of the most popular, important ones here, but it's almost borderline whether it should be on the list. She was not killed immediately by an invention, but she was inventing things that had radiation. And we didn't know enough about radiation of certain sorts being dangerous to humans back then. And so Marie Curie, in her experiments, exposed herself to a lot of radiation, and that ended up killing her. But it's a sort of different, longer scale, but yet maybe the most important in history on this list, version of somebody's inventions becoming the end of them, which is quite an interesting topic. As I mentioned the first time we saw this article in a past stream, I've written a bit in a book of mine before where there was some botanist eaten by his own carnivorous plant, and other versions of people being consumed by their creations. And certainly has overlap here. Here we have industrial ones. The guy who invented the Webb rotary printing press crushed his foot in a printing press and died when they had to amputate it. This person invented luminescent paint designed by radium, and the radium, he was not supposed to be around. How about the ones they call maritime? This was a lighthouse that was destroyed from a storm. He trusted it too much. This person had an experimental diving chamber. Some of these are people on submarines. That actually was something in the news recently. You know how, like maybe a year ago or so, someone tried to design a submarine without the right safety protocol, and it sunk, and all the people on it died. They were trying to visit the Titanic shipwreck, and now they've created another site people may visit of the crashed sub that was on the way to the Titanic shipwreck. And only very recently, I think like a week ago, was it discovered that they photographed the wreck at the bottom of the sea, and they have confirmation of some ways it must have exploded down there. Now, these are other submarine-like things that went wrong. Here we have some medical things that went wrong. How about for publicity and entertainment? This was a stuntman. Got to be careful if you're a stuntman. I am quite surprised that none of the guys in Jackass have died. They have done a lot of crazy stuff. And that was something I loved back in the day, the Jackass show and movies and stuff. I'm still a big fan of that in a certain way. And I've followed some of those people like Steve-O as they have continued to do insane stunts that leave me baffled that all 9 of the original Jackass members are alive, which is great. I love those guys. Keep them safe, aliens. But this stuntman was not so lucky. He developed a shock-absorbent barrel. He was trying to show that it was shock-absorbent by being in the barrel and dropping it off the Houston Astrodome. And the barrel hit the rim of a water tank and was not as good as he thought. How about railway? We got train accidents. Now remember, these aren't just people who had an accident in this way. These are the people who invented the thing having an accident within it. So this guy who invented railway sleeper cars of a certain sort got crushed by them. Someone who invented this type of steam locomotive had an incident, and more. And there's rocketry as well. Rocketry, I guess, sounds similar to the aviation one, but here they had rocket engines and an alcohol-fueled engine exploded. This one, a parachute failed to deploy. Finally, here we have popular legends and related stories. And the top one is sort of the classic historical tale of inventors killed by their own inventions. However, it's more like being killed by your dad's inventions in this case, because Daedalus was a Greek mythological figure who built this wing thing. Here it's wings out of feathers and blankets. And the son Icarus, wearing this thing, was told by the dad, don't go too close to the sun, and he flew too close to the sun, which is now an expression, and the wingsuit, he got eaten by the sun or whatever. So that's a popular myth that relates to this. Here we have a legend of somebody who was roasted in this torture device that he designed, and here's another one that this guy died from a torture method he himself invented. Maybe it's a good thing for, show this to all the dictators out there so they can maybe learn from history that maybe you don't want to make a torture mechanism because, ideologically we're going to say because imagine you were the person and that you wouldn't want to be tortured. But here we can see examples of, or maybe you actually will end up tortured by it, which might be necessary to convince dictators not to do it. They may not follow the golden rule of do what you want done to you. They may only be motivated by these stories. So if you're a dictator, careful what you invent. Now, this person tried to launch himself into outer space in a chair with which 47 rockets were attached. This could have been false. This means that we're not sure, and it may be more likely that it was a myth rather than a real story. Sometimes there's a bit of a game of telephone over the years as well, where, say it's like the first person says, oh, there's this guy who tried to launch himself with a rocket chair. And then the next person's like, I heard about this guy who had a ton of rockets on this chair. And then the next person's like, I heard about this guy who had I'm thinking probably 47 rockets or something on a chair. And then the next person's like, I heard about this guy who had precisely 47 rockets on a chair. And they accidentally stretch it a little bit at a time, so who knows. But apparently the rockets exploded and neither he nor the chair were ever seen again. So there's some good rockets, destroyed the whole chair or launched it pretty far. These are some more stories that may or may not happened in history. Let's see. Oh, this one is actually real, but it's on this list because it's not quite their invention, but neither was the Daedalus one. So this guy was the new CEO or something like that, the new owner of some form of Segway, which are these motorized scooters, and he drove off a cliff riding it. The guy who, not the inventor, but the guy who currently owned the company Segway, drove off a cliff on one of the scooters and died. So, for crazier stories that are not quite inventions, but just people doing really dumb experiments or things, we have what's known as the Darwin Awards as well, which are the stupidest ways people have died. We also just have a list of unusual deaths. The Wikipedia is great. You get one rabbit hole leads to 3 more rabbit holes. We have entertainers who died during a performance. So, that's the inventors killed by their own invention article. And here we have gone through what I wanted to go through for technology, inventions, and products. So, I think, oh, no, you're right. Sorry, I misquoted. I spoke earlier. Somebody left a comment that they're correct. Of the Jackass members who did crazy stunts, Ryan Dunn did die, rest in peace. However, the reason that slipped my mind for some reason is he didn't die doing a filmed stunt. he drove by drunk driving and speeding really fast. And it may have been a stunt in his head. There was someone in the car. Maybe he was like, look at this cool trick, or look how fast my car can go or something, and crashed. So rest in peace. That's very sad, and actually led to his best friend, Bam Margera, who's another Jackass member, going down a terrible downward spiral he's still in the middle of. He's become like a really out of shape, angry, bad father. He's getting in fights with the other members and should be in rehab or something. But so that's a kind of sad story. But somehow none of the 9 did die during one of the filmed stunts, I guess is what was going through my mind. Now, somebody said the Eiffel Tower incident that we saw is actually also the earliest surviving death caught on film. That's interesting. Somebody also says that another note about the Hitler teapot we saw earlier, that if you knew more about Michael Graves, you would find it extra hilarious. All right. Somebody also noted that they haven't attempted to mail myself, but they did try to dig a hole to China when they were a kid. I think we've all done that. When I did it, I don't think I had in my mind I would actually get to China, maybe just that I would hit something cool. I did like being on the beach. When my family went to the beach, sometimes I would go like up a bit from the water so that sea level wise, or where that water was going, I was like 5 feet above it. So it's maybe like 30 feet over in the sand, you're like 5 feet above the water. Or maybe I'd try to go to like 2 or 3 feet above the water and see if I could dig a hole in the sand until you get to the wet sand and until you get to water. And you see all those weird little crab guys that are actually not dangerous to you and kind of fun to look at and put back in the water, the little sand crab fellas. So I've also dug a hole in the dirt with my friends. I don't think I expected that I would get to China, but if you tried that at a young enough age, you may think it's a possibility. Now, I am on low battery now, and we have gone through a lot of strange ones related to technology, so I think we're going to wrap up the stream soon. Now, as a few random reminders, one is leave a comment if you want the next stream where I do Weird Wikipedia, not necessarily the next stream I do, but the next Weird Wikipedia themed stream. If you have a preference for which of these are next, food, folklore, history, what? Mathematics we're saving for later, but any of the others are fair game. Now, also, note that on this channel I have started putting out a few shorts again. If you want to help me make sure the color profile isn't messed up on them, look at the note I made very early in this stream about a tech thing I've been dealing with. But I'm gonna, tonight or tomorrow, put out one of the bonus videos I filmed just by re-exporting it through something like iMovie to be careful about the weird color thing I was experiencing. So there will be a bonus video about Fibonacci numbers, which will be coming out probably tomorrow morning, maybe tonight. And then another bonus video about some analogies for why negatives times negatives are positives. Some of you may already have the hang of that, but sort of some analogies to make that feel more instinctual for why negatives times negatives are positives. Those are 2 bonus videos I filmed coming out this week, or in the next week from now. And there will be more shorts coming out as well. I have several of those filmed. So in the meantime, on my main combo class channel, I'm slowly putting together the finale of grade -2. Make sure you've seen the last episode on there, which is linked in this description, which is the mathematical finale of that main episode channel of mine, where I go into this cool concept I semi-invented. Other people have done some mild research on it, and what I discovered about this cool pattern. And apart from that, the finale that I'm working on now is sort of wrapping up the grade, going into a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that you guys didn't see, like weird animals that came here, or little injuries I got on set, as well as I'm going to go into a pretty big secret that I've had throughout this grade. I revealed a lot of secrets about my past in the grade -1 finale documentary, and I plan to do the same with this one. There's a pretty big secret I will be telling in that as well. It won't be something with much math or science knowledge, but it will be a look into my life of the past year, along with a lot of funny, weird bits and some strange cinematic moments. It will be in a documentary style, in a way. So hope you look forward to that content coming soon. The finale will take a few weeks, which is why there will be a bunch of bonus content on this channel in the meantime. But do make sure you're also subscribed to my channel just called Combo Class, because a lot of people coming here from shorts see that this channel has more subscribers than that and don't realize that that one's my main channel. Okay, so thank you all for joining me in today's stream. I will see you again for another stream soon. Also, feel free to comment if you have any preference for any other of the recurring topics that I do on streams to come back. Like if you want to see another weird graphs stream, or another mathematical beat making stream, or another one where we look at like weird math memes, or whatever topics that we do occasionally that you find interesting, feel free to comment. And in general, I love you all so much. Thank you for joining me in the Combo Classroom for this long live stream, and I'll catch you again in some bonus content quite soon.